Hello guys, welcome to another Kerbal Space Program video. Today, continuing our career, just where we left off last time, we will make the trip to Edna for the contract. And after that, collect our first container of enriched uranium. Edna is an asteroid from the JNSQ mod similar to Dre's, but with a small captured satellite which we will also explore later. To begin, we will execute the transfer maneuver using MechJeb. MechJeb will automatically calculate the most optimal transfer window and create a maneuver to get us as close as possible. Although everything is automated, several manual corrections were necessary, as well as dealing with the odd bug, because sometimes it happens that MechJeb eliminates the maneuver node when you run it, which forces us to do it manually, but fortunately, it's not a big deal. Then, it was necessary to wait approximately 45 days until the transfer window opened, which was excellent for us because the more time passed, the more uranium our refinery on land would collect. While time passed, we took the opportunity to carry out the beep experiment, which would not give us much science in Kerbin, not even time to finish it, but at least something to kill time. So, we start the combustion now to the next node. Here we set up a new adjustment maneuver to intercept Edna, which is a fairly small asteroid, and the truth is it was a little frustrating to hit it, but nothing that couldn't be fixed with a little patience. Now my favorite part of this mission, letting time pass, in order to better take advantage of our other mission, which is the important one. While we get there, I would like to take the opportunity to tell you a little about my ultimate goal with this series, and the long-term plans. If you have looked at the map, you will have noticed that not only are the planets from JNSQ, but there is a more distant star similar to Alpha Centauri but for JNSQ. After completing the science tree and collecting some funds, I want to carry out a manned mission to this star and create a colony there, but not just any mission. I want to do this with a very specific ship, which you probably know if you've seen some of my old posts on Facebook, or if you recognize it from my channel logo. It is a project that I have attempted many times since my first days at KSP, but time and time again I have had to cancel it due to the extreme number of pieces involved in making it with a good level of detail. I don't want to spoil too much about it, at least not yet, because I will need to raise around 1 billion funds at least to start building this ship. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but through uranium mining, it finally seems possible. So, back to the present. We are already at the maneuver point. Here, I dare say, we were a few meters away from ruining everything, since we intercepted Edna, precisely, at the furthest point from Kerbin. I mean, our arrival really couldn't have been more inopportune. We even lost communication with the probe for a couple of days, until Kerbin started getting closer again. This is something I will have to take note of for future missions, and that is, never underestimate the importance of putting up more antennas. That was close, but well, we are already in Edna. It should be noted that it was fortunate that the nerve engine reached us to enter orbit, since I always make the same mistake of forgetting the degradation of the solar panels and their loss of efficiency due to this distance from the sun, so ion engines can only operate at full capacity for a short period of time. In addition, one of the ship's solar panels was damaged, to further complicate things, which would have made it impossible to enter orbit with a relative velocity that was too high. Either way, it was necessary to use them for orbital adjustments, but it was an easier task at least. So those who know Kerbalism will know that scientific experiments take much more time, so the only thing left to do is leave the ship in orbit, collect the contract, and meanwhile, take care of our business at home. Now, what we were waiting for, see if the uranium mining business really works. Of course, it is worth collecting the load now on a trial basis at least, since it is a mod, and mods, when you have many, have a high predisposition to bugs. In fact, I am used to dealing with several bugs which considerably damage the gaming experience. Then, I was really worried about the game properly calculating the funds between a full tank and an empty one. Since from what I know about mods, this could perfectly fail, and it would not be a surprise. Then let's go there. At first, I wanted to make it as realistic as possible, even automated, so the plan would be to send a crane with a spare container, remove the attached uranium container, place it on the ground, and replace it with an empty one, then tow the full container even in KSC. I also wanted to verify that this was indeed possible. So I prepared a crane for heavy transport, thanks to the wheels that I researched with the science provided by the mission we just did, and I headed to the refinery. I had already had problems lifting the uranium containers using only servos, since apparently I underestimated again and again how much they weigh. They even almost destroyed my final vehicle. That's why in this case I prepared and built a crane with a fixed arm. It only extends and retracts the cylinders, without servos this time. So we should be able to easily lift the uranium tanks. The only problem was each time a docking is carried out in Kerbal, the vehicles are rendered as a solid model and the docking ports fully aligned. If this alignment of the docking ports causes one of the legs or wheels of the vehicle to go through the ground, this happens. For this reason it is so complicated to do a coupling on the ground, especially with flexible robotic parts, since at the last moment they become rigid. You have to try to raise the wheels or legs slightly so that everything goes well. For my part, it took me a while to realize why this was happening, and I preferred to opt for the alternative way. Luckily, I'm a big fan of Plan B, and I used the refinery side docking port, since you always need to have a docking port. The problem persists, but at least the oscillation now makes the station rise a little from the ground, instead of being buried as it happened before. Now, all that remains is to transfer the uranium from the station containers to those of the transport vehicle. This process took me a few minutes, so I'll speed it up a bit. Once the task is finished, I must say that I am glad to have moved the chains back a little, because originally the idea was to bring the container to the front. When this changed, it shifted the center of mass of the vehicle dangerously towards the rear, which could cause a roll with the moving ground that would end in the destruction of the tanks. Because of this, I made the trip to KSC almost without exceeding 50 meters per second, or at least avoiding it at all costs. The trip was somewhat tedious, but finally I arrived at the runway without problems to recover the maximum possible funds. Are you wondering if I had to get on the track? The answer is yes. Don't ask, just yes. Now the million-dollar question. Did it work? We got 4.2 million in funds from a vehicle that cost $1 million. This was what we were looking for, so it definitely worked, and yielded more funds than any contract I could do, except for the asteroid mapping ones, but those are somewhat complex and prone to bugs. So our Kerbal space program is up and running again, and self-funded like never before. Now that I know this works, I will proceed to replace the refinery after the next load of uranium it provides, and I will build one on wheels, so I can look for better concentrations along the terrain and move them more easily. It's been a while since I've done a massive rover, so this will definitely be the most fun I've done in a long time. For now we will leave it here. Remember to like and subscribe to see the next chapter. See you soon, my friends.